The following podcast is taken from a live broadcast on Inspire FM.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, you are listening to Sister Speak. You're here with me, Fareen, and we also have in the studio
Lamisa.
Assalamu alaikum, Lamisa, how are you?
Wa alaikum assalam, I'm good, thank you, Fareen. How are you?
I'm okay, I'm a bit tired, but we move. So today's topic the topic name is different generations, different perspectives. So we're just going to talk about aging, growing up, being old, a bit about society, the values that we hold as the youth generation. And as our hot topic, we're going to be speaking about Nohaila Benzina. I hope I pronounced that right, which is the first hijabi at the World Cup. But before we get into all of that, Lamisa, would you like to tell everyone what our show is about, please?
Yep, so our show is a platform for Muslim girls and women to voice their opinions on various kind of issues, whether that be in the news, like current topics or general topics. So yeah, we just want to let everyone know that all views and opinions are our own, and we respect all other similar or opposing views and opinions.
Thank you. And you can get in touch with us and you can let us know any thoughts. And how can they do this, Lamisa?
They can call in on 01582 481822. Please do feel free to call. We'd love to hear you. Or you can WhatsApp into 0777 948 1822.
We also have an Instagram page at Sister Speak. So if you don't want to call during the live, you can always send us a message. We'll be happy to respond. So before we get into our hot topic and our topic, we have a lot to talk about. I'm gonna ask you, Lamisa, what's your thought of the week, which is a segment that we do where we just say anything random, any anecdote. Lamisa's a bit she's dreading it a little bit, but
yeah,
if you would like,
what should I do for my thought for the week? I guess this is interesting. We meet so many different types of people all the time, and I guess at the beginning you never really know who you're going to get along with or who you're not going to get along with. And then I find it interesting, you know, as time goes by, you end up developing a story with loads of different types of people. And I think it's always interesting when I meet someone new. I always think about like what is our relationship going to be like, essentially. And it's funny because a lot of the time I am pretty spot on with it. So I know, like, usually I get a vibe from a person that I'm going to get along well with them, and it turns out I do actually get along well with them. I'm like, wow, I knew that from the beginning. But I think it's just interesting, you know, we have so many different stories with the people that we meet in life. Yeah. It's
that different spark, isn't it, when you first meet someone? And is it, you know what people tend to say, that the person that you start hating the most is the person that you're going to be like best friends with. That was my case. This girl came in new to our class and I was like, ew, like I don't think I'm going to like her, blah blah blah. Then
you said ew.
Then we got sat together. I was such a hater when I was in primary, okay? Okay. Then we got sat together and we just started being best friends.
You never know, and I feel like that's like kind of the magic behind meeting people and talking to people. You never know what, you know, your story is going to be with them. Yeah,
definitely. It's so important as well to not have like a closed mindset on who you're going to meet.
Very
because
true.
Like appearances is not everything. And you can see someone that's, I don't know, for me, for example, I see a hijabi and I'm like, okay, we're going to be friends, but it doesn't have to be just that one person, you know, that one specific group.
Yeah, of course. Keep your mind always open when you're meeting people and when
definitely.
You're having conversation. I feel like there are times when I'm just a bit like, I don't necessarily, you know, vibe with this person as well, and then as time goes on, that person really grows on me. So sometimes it just takes time, you know?
It does. What would you say are some signs that you vibe with someone?
That I vibe with someone?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. With a lot of things in life, I go with a gut feeling, and so on first impressions, if I get a good gut feeling from you, then I'm pretty sure we're going to get along well. What are some signs? If you laugh at my jokes, I'm probably going to like you. That's just even
if they're bad.
That's just even if they're bad. I'd never make bad jokes though, so that's impossible.
I love the confidence.
If you laugh at my jokes, I'm probably going to get along well with you. And I think just being an easygoing type of person. I feel like people who I know a lot of people do have walls up and they might have various reasons for that. But I think me personally, I'm quite an easygoing person, I like to think. I feel like Fareen, you'd say differently because you met me in a different context.
I'm going to share an experience that I had with Lamisa. So,
sure, go ahead.
First impressions aren't everything. I'm telling you now, my first impression when I first joined Sister Speak, I thought Lamisa was so closed off, and I thought, oh my god, out of everyone, I thought you were the most intimidating one.
Really?
As we like went along, we were coming out, we were hanging out. Then I thought, oh, Lamisa's that you're the most easygoing of all of us. That's what I'm saying. First impressions are and everything. And even though I got that gut feeling that you're saying that, oh, she's intimidating, I don't think she's gonna like me. You ended up liking me. Do you think first impressions are really that important?
I don't think they're important. I think they're fun to kind of go through. I love hearing people's first impressions of each other. And
I know. I love hearing stuff about myself.
Fuel my ego. But I feel like it's not important because, like we said, you never know what your story is going to be with that person. And you know, the types of experiences that you might have with them, the fun times, the not so fun times, all of that stuff, we can't tell. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And you know the thing where they say you have different personalities with... I've heard this thing so many times. You have different personalities.
Do you agree with that?
I think you kind of have a different relationship with every single one of your friends. So obviously the way you speak, the way you are, it depends on the trust that's in that friendship. So obviously you're going to change a little bit. You're not going to be the same monotone person with every single person.
That's very true. That's very true. And each situation also is different. When you're at work, when you're at school, when you're outside of all of those situations, everything is going to be slightly different. I think in essence you're the same person, but it's shown in different fonts.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Wow, that's really, really true. I love using the word fonts, you know. You're the same person in different fonts.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lamisa. Do you want to add anything else to your thought of the week?
No, I think that's it.
I don't know if as a host I'm allowed to share my thought of the week, but I'm just going to do it anyways.
Of course you are. Share your thought of the week.
My thought of the week, I've been thinking a lot about arrogance, and I think I always say this, but being humble for me is a quality that I need to see in every single person that I meet. It's like essential to me, because I just had many experiences where I see people thinking that they're above someone. For example, if you go to, I don't know, a corner shop, then the person that's right in front of you, they deserve the same respect that you're going to give to, I don't know, the president or whoever you're meeting. So I think being nice and respectful, I know this sounds a bit like be nice, flowers and sunshine, but honestly, being nice and respectful to everyone, it doesn't cost you anything. And it's really important to understand that I'm not above you, you're not above me. You know, the only great thing in this world is Allah, and at the end of the day, that's where we're gonna go. So it doesn't matter if I can't, like, for example, if you have a lot of cars, then I'm gonna feel that I'm not up to your standard because you have a lot of cars. But that's not what matters to me. What matters to me is how you treat people, how you talk with everyone, what respect you give to other people. And arrogance is a quality that you really don't want to have, and because this dunya is temporary at the end of the day. So you're not gonna take anything that's from here to the grave. You're not going to take anything like that. So that's why I just been thinking about this, because I had an experience and we were at a corner shop. No, I think, something like that. And this two girls came in and they said they were obviously the guy at the corner shops, maybe he didn't speak that much English or whatever. So they knew. So they started going, oh, I deserve to take this for free. I deserve to take this for free. And I was like, I just feel like so bad for him, because I empathize a lot with a lot of people like that, because I saw my parents in that position, being immigrants. They don't know the language, and it's so important that he's there, he's doing his job, he's trying to get income for his family, and you're just here trying to ruin his day because he doesn't speak the same language. So stuff like this makes me really, really angry. And at the moment I didn't do anything because I was like, maybe they're gonna tell me something as well. So, but I think it's really important to speak up. And I think this was a bit of a rant, but honestly, take from my summary for the thought of the week is never think you're above anyone else, and never think that anyone's above you. We all are in the same line. We're all going to go to the same place. And it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account, how much cars you have, how many houses you own, which is all great if you have it, but it doesn't matter when you're speaking to someone.
100%. Wow, that was really nicely said. I think also with arrogance is something that creeps up on us and we don't realize it. So just being sure to keep ourselves in check. This is advice for me first and foremost, to always look back and think about, in these situations, why did I interact with that person in the way I did, and was arrogance one of the reasons kind of behind it? Because if it is, it's something you really need to flush out, and it's a hard thing to do, but check yourself, humble yourself, because we're not, we're all the same as each other at the end of the day. And like you said, we all deserve respect and kindness.
Yeah. So that's going to be our thought for the week. We all have the same heartbeat. It doesn't matter what else we have. And this was my bit of rant, but I really want everyone out there to know that, you know, arrogance is not a quality to have. And if you do have arrogance, or maybe you feel like you have, then it's really easy to work on it. And yeah, that's it for my thought of the week. It was great. Thank you for sharing. Let me say your thought of the week as well. Now we're going to move on to our hot topics. So before we get into that, I'm just going to read the hot topics. So this hijabi football player, Nohaila Benzina, she was wearing the hijab at the World Cup, which I think is a really good, what could you say, is a really good development. I think she's the first one. So seeing that representation is obviously really nice for everyone. So I'm just going to read the BBC News a bit of a summary so everyone gets in context. So young Muslim footballers say Nohaila Benzina is their role model after she made history by wearing a hijab at the Women's World Cup. She wore it at a senior tournament when Morocco beat South Korea. And it was the hijab in football plays was banned by the game's governing body. And then after 2014, they allowed the players to wear it for religious reasons. So I'm just going to ask you, Limisa, what do you think of this great representation that we have? And this, because I think it's she's such a great role model for every little kid, every little girl that wants to be a football player. Because first, there's so much discrimination because first it's football, which is considered a men's sport, and then she's a woman, and then she's a hijabi, she's Muslim. So what do you think, Limisa?
I think that it is, like you said, it's truly great. If in terms of representation in various careers, I think we definitely do need that. I feel like there are a lot of career paths that we kind of seem closed off to because we haven't seen anyone do it before. So the more and more we get people who are doing it in a halal way, she's wearing her hijab while she's playing her sport, and she's making sure that, you know, she is covered and things like that within the realms of like our religion. It just goes to show that we can do these things and we can do them within the realms of our religion. It's not restricting us in any way, which I think is a misconception that people might get because we don't necessarily see the representation.
Definitely. You should never be apologetic for your faith. I think you can do anything. You're just wearing a hijab, you know, and seeing this and seeing a football player, I think any hijabi that I've seen in like, you know, when we did our show for high representation in Muslim women and stuff like that, that show was really good because there's so many fields in where there are hijabis. And when I was younger, I used to think, and they're not going to take me because I'm wearing my hijab. And it has happened to a lot of my mom's friends. They used to wear the hijab when they used to go do their job. It wasn't allowed, so they had to take it off.
Oh no.
And it's like at that time we were going backwards, but now as time goes by, and we're getting, the world is being more like open-minded about every religion and stuff like that, then it's so normalized now to wear it, isn't it? And it's really good also for the young girls, for this generation. The next generation is going to be like, oh, the second hijabi World Cup did this and that. And do you think that hijab obviously shouldn't be restricted? Wait, let me form my question in my head. You go, what any thoughts you have now? Any thoughts for the question?
I think that it's good because, like I was saying, when we were younger, we didn't necessarily see people wearing the scarf and doing various different careers, and I do feel like we need our future generation to not just be in the few set careers that we think are okay, but rather go into various career paths and then show people what Islam really is in those career paths as well. Yeah, I forgot my question.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa.
That's all right.
So I remember when I was young, mm-hmm. My parents, because they're immigrants and stuff, and they were also adapting to being in the country and learning the language and stuff like that. They used to say, don't go out wearing any cultural clothes because they're gonna in the train and stuff when people don't sit next to you. So do you think that our parents, and kind of when we were growing up, did that kind of make a thought in you that, oh, I'm restricted to do it just because people are going to think that because I'm wearing it? Does it make sense?
I see. And I think your experience is very much shaped because you grew up in Spain, right?
Yeah.
And maybe because I'm not sure what the history of immigration from kind of our like Indian subcontinent over to Spain is. I feel like in the UK it's been happening for a while, like people are kind of used to it. So I do get your question. I feel like I haven't faced it. I feel like maybe my dad and his sisters may have faced that growing up. I think we're quite lucky in our generation that a lot of people are used to it. I still feel like people do feel, no, I actually, to be fair, let me backtrack. I feel like people do feel quite, what's the word? Uncomfortable perhaps to go out in their cultural clothing, even now, even to this day, because of how they might be perceived. And I think that the fears that your parents did have are very valid fears. Because I know there was a time when people would be like, oh, if you're walking, like if you're out by yourself and you're wearing a scarf, be careful, and like train platforms and things like that. So I think that's very much there. I guess with the more and more that we see Muslim women doing things and, you know, these things become more and more visible, hopefully the less of those reactions we'll see, like the, you know, anti kind of wearing a scarf or anti, you know, cultural clothing, things like that.
Yeah, definitely.
If that makes sense.
You know, it's like, I love that you use the word generation, because that's going to be our topic. So for example, in my parents' generation, when they were in Spain, there was a first generation from our family, so they were being really wary of what they were wearing, because obviously they don't speak the language, they're already going to be, you know, adapting and stuff like that. So it does depend on their experiences. And I think in Luton, everything is so Asian.
Luton is a slightly different case.
Great. I know Lamisa is a really Luton fan, but I think I'm going to become a Luton fan as well, because honestly,
everyone should be a Luton fan.
Everyone should be a Luton fan. If you're from Luton and you don't like Luton, what are you doing? I'm joking. I don't want to discriminate everyone, but anyways, when I came to Luton, I saw so many people that are like from India. And you know, when I was living in Spain, there were only like 2-3 people, and you couldn't even tell they were Indian, Pakistani, whatever, because we all used to wear Western clothes. So we didn't have that, you know, cultural kind of sentiment. Let's say, how much do you think social media has impacted the, you know, the hijabi visibility? Not even hijabi, just, you know, Asian women, like Pakistani, Indian, anything, being in higher roles?
Oh, I think like it has affected it massively. It has made it so much more normalized. People see that. You know, people see, not only us, but like the wider community see Muslim women in various roles, and you have loads of influencers showing their daily life of what it's like to be, for example, a CEO, or what it's like to be, you know, working in finance or things like that. And it's nice to see, because you see people who have gone into these fields and they're doing well. And I think for a lot of people, even if it's not like, even subconsciously, it will be there. Like, these people are there and I see it. So there's no limit as to what I can do.
Yeah, and there is no limit of what we can do. The fact that we're wearing this, it doesn't restrict us from doing anything. And if I want to go, for example, be a football player, then I can do it. We can do anything we want. What would you say? What would you want to do?
What would I want to do?
As a hobby. Obviously, let me tell everyone, she's in medical school, so she's really busy. But as a hobby...
As a hobby, fly planes.
What?
Yeah.
What is that?
Flying plane, like being a pilot.
Oh... Oh, you know what? You're just reminding me of a story. So I had this, not this friend, I'm just gonna say someone that I know, and she used to be a flight attendant. She used to be, because we're not in the same age range. She was like 35 or it doesn't matter. Okay. But she used to be a flight attendant, and she told me this beautiful story. So she, in her breaks, she used to read you know, those Islamic books about wearing the hijab and stuff like that. And with a flight attendant, you obviously have your uniform and stuff like that. And she quit her job just because she felt so empty that she wasn't wearing the hijab. And I remember when I didn't used to wear it, and I was like all fine, but now that I wear it, I feel so like empowered that I'm wearing it, because there's so many people that when they're working, they want to wear it, but they just can't because they're restricted by their job. And obviously, if you don't have any other options, then you have to do it. But us, that we can wear it freely, and I can, for example, I'm gonna go study law. I can do that with my, you know, my hijab and my religious beliefs and everything. But there was a time in her time that she had to quit her job because she wanted to wear it so much that she just couldn't do it. She just couldn't. She used to wear it outside of her like breaks. Like she was working, she couldn't. And I just think it's so, you can just tell like how much her iman is, you know, how strong her iman is.
Definitely, yeah.
Because it's such a hard decision. You can,
of course,
because flight attendant as well, it's such a good like job, a good salary and everything. But like I said in my thought of the week, this is so temporary, and the fact that she worries she's gonna have so many rewards in, you know, afterlife.
Of course.
Any thoughts, Samisa?
Yeah, I think the fact that people nowadays, it's great because we don't have to compromise our faith, but there are loads of people who that was a real struggle for them. You know, having to draw a line between faith and then their work in kind of the wider social setting. But alhamdulillah, we're really lucky that we're at a point where we can do the things that we want to do without having to compromise our beliefs.
I know, honestly, we are so lucky, and not it doesn't matter if you don't wear the hijab or not. The fact that we as women, we're allowed to do things that we want without being restricted.
Exactly.
Is just such a good, such a good improvement. So I just shared when I said that it was banned. So basically what happened is that 16 years ago, this football match was in Canada. Her name was Asmahan Mansour. She was aged 11. Keep that in mind. She was aged 11. Before the match started, the referee's whistle had been blown, and they told her to remove her hijab if she wanted to play, because it went against the rules set out by the sport body at the time. Then the issue went to obviously the soccer association and stuff like that, and then what they did is that they lifted that hijab. Imagine that little girl being 11, being told that you can't play with your hijab on, and having to take it off, especially in front of everyone to play. It's honestly, it's so horrible. And that's why I'm saying the fact that she went to the World Cup and she's wearing it, she's literally representing Islam. Yeah. It's just such a good inspirational, because now everyone that wants to do it, and they were like, oh no, I don't know, I think I'm gonna take it off, I can't do it. Now that she can see, you know. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Apparently there was a risk of injury if she was wearing it.
Oh, okay.
A risk of injury by wearing your hijab. That's what I'm thinking. You're never restricted by anything. So that's gonna be our hot topic. Do you want to add anything else?
No, I think we said everything needs to be said.
All right. So should we just move to our main topic?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so our main topic is different generations, different perspectives. Obviously, we have like 4 minutes left for the first half, so we'll continue in the second half. You can always let us know your thoughts, and you can WhatsApp us at 07779 481 822 if you want to tell us if you're, I don't know, scared of growing old, scared of having white hair. That's all we're going to be talking about after this break. So I'm just going to ask you a question that we can, finish off now, and then in the next one, I'll just ask you like a deep one.
Okay.
So, let me see. I just want to ask you: are you the first generation in your family to go university?
No.
Okay. just checking to know what question I could ask. So, how do different generations approach the concept of retirement and finding purpose in their later years? I couldn't look for an easy light question, so this is a really loaded one.
So just so I know that I've got your question right, it's kind of how do different generations kind of think about retirement, and what was the second part?
Oh wait, before we get into the question, let me just read something just so everyone, so we'll do this in the second half, right?
Okay, fine.
I just have some notes that I took yesterday. So for everyone who's listening, I just want to put yourself in the bracket that I'm going to tell you by the years of like the name of every generation. So baby boomers, they're from 1946 to 1964. Then we have Generation X, which is 1965 to 1980. Then millennials from 1981 to 1996. And then the new generations now. So the Generation Z is 1997 to 2012, which is me and Lamisa.
Oh, I see.
And then it's Generation Alpha, which is 2013 and onwards.
Okay.
So just for everyone,
and it's Generation Y. Did I just make that up?
I think isn't it always been Generation Z, Gen Z? That's what it's called.
Yeah, Gen Z. But then I thought the next one doesn't even make sense to be Gen Y. I just made that up.
Where did you get the Y from? I don't know. I don't know how accurate this is, everyone. By the way, I looked it up from ChatGPT. I just thought it would be a nice little, thinking time for you to know what bracket you're in and where we're gonna talk to, so you know what we're gonna really, because we are gonna be talking about stereotypes, and we are gonna mention the generation like names and stuff like that. So just so everyone knows, me and Lamisa Generation Z. It's so surprising to read that everyone in my family, from my siblings, we're Generation Z. Then my brother, he's born in 2014, his Generation Alpha. Oh my God, I can't believe this. So what about you? Everyone in your siblings in the same generation?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Oops. And then my parents, they would be in, not even millennials, you know, Generation X. I think you got confused by that.
Okay.
Generation X were my parents, and then millennials is from 1981 onwards.
Okay, so both my parents are Generation X.
Generation X. So there's 2 generations before us. So
Yes.
Generation X, and then there's millennials.
Yeah.
We're not in that bracket.
No.
Then generation. Okay. So just for everyone to know, we're just going to talk about that. We're going to talk about stereotypes. So I'm just going to read out some just for everyone to get in talk. So for example, lazy millennials and entitled Gen Z. I'm really excited to talk about entitled Gen Z one, because I think we get a lot of pressure in this generation to do stuff because we don't do it as the older generations used to. Obviously, older generations, they have it harder, you know, but I think everyone in this generation should take a chill pill to us because we're trying to do everything we can. We also have, for example, technology averse boomers and tech addicted Gen Z. How do you think technology will? I'm not going to ask you this question. I think we're about to end, but we're going to talk about technology in this generation, in the older generations, and then how technology is going to go on and on.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Atif Nawaz. Listen to Inspire FM shows in your time by heading over to inspirefm.org or listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to the second half of Sister Speak. So in the first half, we were talking a little bit about the hijab. We were talking about Nohaila Benzina. She was the first hijabi in the World Cup. We spoke about our thoughts for the week. But now in our second half, like I was saying in the first half before I got cut off. Well, we're going to talk about different generations, different perspectives. Like I said, fears of getting old. So I'm just going to get straight into it. And I'm going to ask you the question that I asked you before. So how has technology influenced the experiences of different generations as they age?
Wow, that's an interesting question.
Technology is a big thing in this generation, you know.
And the way in which we use it, I think it's interesting because I feel like it's affected all of us. Oh,
sorry, let me say your mic.
That's okay. That's fine. At least I've got my voice now.
Mic 4.
You mic 4. So I think that I was saying that is a very interesting question, and the way that technology has affected generations. I think it's interesting because technology has become such an important part of everyone's life. I feel like it's affected us all in the same way because we spend loads and loads of time on our phone scrolling through social media. My parents do the exact same thing. So whilst when they were at our age, they would have been doing something different, because technology has become such a big part of everyone's lives, I don't think it's a generational thing. I think everyone uses it, and that's just because technology is so convenient and in some ways addictive. So yeah,
well, I never thought about it that way because technology is developing as we grow.
Yes.
So every single time is a new thing for us and for everyone else. But I think, for example, my parents, they don't use social media at all except for like WhatsApp.
Okay.
And that's something.
But that's their social media, I guess.
Yeah. It kind of depends on who, but they just think it's so like complicated for them, so that's why they don't do it. They make us do everything. But for example, my brother, he knows how to do, like he teaches my mom how to do stuff.
Babies can go on phones, open YouTube and watch whatever video they want to watch. Babies, I've literally seen like 8-month-old children do this. And I'm like, how?
You know how actually that how depressing it is. Because you did when I was like I don't know 3.
When I was 8 months old. Do you remember when you were 8 months old, Fareed?
When I was 6 or 7, I didn't have a phone until I was 12 or something, and the only phone that I had was one of the, it was like a Hello Kitty phone with like buttons, so you couldn't even talk with anyone. Why did I say buttons?
That was a toy. That was
Yeah, it was a toy, but you could call people. I just didn't have the credit and stuff like that.
I see. Okay, fine.
But now my brother literally has like a Samsung. Like, how can you? I think it's so like deteriorating, because now they can see everything. And you know, when you were young, did you see any like YouTube restricted for kids and stuff? There wasn't any of that.
Oh no.
Or maybe it wasn't. We didn't know.
No, I think YouTube. So YouTube was there. I think YouTube got quite big when I was in junior school or start of high school. So like year 6, year 7. That's when it really started getting big. Because I remember what we mainly used to do. Because even when I was younger, and I know I'm not like that.
You're not like
I'm not that old baby. I want to say that sounds really bad, but anyway,
we're in the same generation. Just
yeah. Even when I was younger, it's not like we had TV and that's all that we would watch, but there was no other, like there wasn't my parents going on your phone, like going on my parents' phone wasn't a big thing because their phones were just for calls.
Yeah.
The only things that we had technology wise in the same way that we use our phones today would probably be like games consoles maybe, but that's about it really. So it's almost strange to think that if we think from 2010 through to 2015, there was like a huge jump in how often we use our phones and what we use them for. Yeah, it's just interesting to see.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Nowadays, because the phone being used by like people, like I don't know, boys or whatever, boys and girls below 14, like my brother, for example, he's 8. There are so many restrictions because at this young age, they're exposed to so many content that they shouldn't see as kids, for like bad words and stuff like that, and the YouTube video. So what I would do when I was young, I never even saw that there was an option to restrict videos or to restrict it just to kids. And now that I see it now, it's such a huge development. I think it's really deteriorating for their mental health as well, because the first thing that they want to do after they come from like school or anything is just use their phones. I mean, we do that as well, but I remember when I was in school, all I used to do is I used to come home, leave my bag, and then go out again with my friends, like to the park or something.
But then now maybe like people who are in generations gone by would have said that at our age, in their kind of late teens, 20s, 30s, they would come back home from work and actually do things to relax, whereas we just kind of, a lot of us, not everyone obviously, but a lot of us do find our way of switching off is going on the phone and mindlessly scrolling through content.
Honestly, it's so bad. Every time I talk about it on my own radio, I go home and for the rest of the week I'm like, I don't want to use my phone, but then I always end up doing it again. And it's so draining sometimes. I find myself just scrolling for the sake of scrolling. There's nothing there. It's
interesting because the 2 weeks that I spent in Bangladesh, obviously I was doing stuff and I was with other people. I didn't use my phone at all. Like, when I honestly say the only reason why I used it was to call my parents, and that was it. I stopped going on WhatsApp, I stopped going on YouTube. I couldn't go on Instagram because my phone didn't have storage, and so I actually couldn't use Instagram.
That was good for you.
But like, it's weird because I was doing things and I was talking to people. I felt a bit more energized and not as drained.
Yeah, that's a really good point you made, because we are talking about technology in our country, in the UK. But for example, in Bangladesh, did you see any kids that they were at your age, 7, 8, with like big phones?
Yeah, in Bangladesh, is obviously like everyone has phones like that as well. I feel like kids are crazy for phones too. But I was just lucky because my phone didn't have storage, and so I actually couldn't use it in those
you
ways.
Use it anyway.
I was forced to not use it. So.
Basically, no, man, just don't. But for example, when I go back home, when I go to India, none of my cousins, like little ones, they don't have any phones or anything.
Really?
Yeah, I think it just depends. I think on the area that you're in.
Maybe.
But in this country, everyone that's our age, or even like 7, 8, they have their own phone.
Do you think it's a good or bad thing? Let's talk about that.
I think it's a really bad thing. When my mom was thinking of giving my brother a phone, just so, those iPad kids thing, I was like, don't do it. He's going to just sit at home. He's going to sit. And she was like, what am I going to do? And I was like, well, just tell him to go outside or something. And then when he got it, then I started being the second mom, like my mom says, and, restricting and stuff. And I think it's really bad because you're talking to them and they're just not listening to you. They're just scrolling. And honestly, sometimes it's funny because you're like, what the flip? But I just find it so deteriorating. I don't want my brother to be obsessed with his phone when he's like old. I want him to, live life like I did. I wasn't that much of a wow, but in my childhood, I used to do so many things, and using my phone was the least of my chores. I'm going to put it like that. Do you think it's a good or bad thing?
I don't know, because I feel like we don't know. It's technically such a new thing. It's really hard for us to know. I mean, I guess we are seeing some of the effects, things like increased loneliness, the effects that we're seeing on mental health, and maybe the effects that it's having on social interaction. But it's such a new thing, and there are very obvious good things that come from it. And technology has made our life so much easier. I think we do all need to kind of talk to each other a bit more.
We need to have like a balance between using like technology and real life.
Yeah.
That's sure. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just agreeing.
Oh, thank you. And I'm just gonna mention, I just find it so weird and cute that there's like old people, like our elders, and they're going to there's like master classes on how to use your phone. They're like free.
Yes.
I just want to mention it. I just find it so cute that because to us it's like instant, isn't it? We just know how to do it. They're just instructions and everything.
But they teach you a lot of really good things in these classes. Things that we wouldn't know. I haven't been, but I've had a taster session when I got my phone fixed the other day when it died on me.
Wow.
And they're good. They like teach you different features that you wouldn't know. So yeah, if you ever need a tutorial on your phone, like go to your phone provider and try and book a class.
Thank you, Louisa, for that great advice. No, I just what was I saying? Yeah, so elder people, the fact that they have this new technology, this new phone, and they don't know how to use it, I just find it really, really cute, because my grandma back home, she has a phone, she doesn't know how to use it, so every time we call her, she never answers because she doesn't know how to do it. And when I went, I gave her like a proper master class as well, and I was like, this is how you do it. If I call you, this is where you have to press. And she was like, like okay, that's fine. Yeah. And then when I go back home, it's like, oh my god, and all my cousins do it for her. Yeah. I really like old people, because they were
spoken as a true 18-year-old.
No, yeah, because I don't know, I just find them so cute. They went through the whole life and everything, and they're trying to adapt now, and the way they do it, I just have that urge to help them all the time. Yeah, that's just sweet. Okay, next question. We're gonna move on from generations about aging and scared of getting old, like we said like 50 times during the show. So, what are some common misconceptions about aging, and how can we challenge them? Misconceptions. I think there's a lot of sections, isn't it? There's misconceptions, so aging, like in women and stuff like that.
I think there's so many misconceptions, and there's so many. I think it's interesting because as we grow older, we see the people around us who are our adults, and they get older too. And I think that concept of aging is very distant to us until you see it happening in real life. And sometimes I look at my parents, and I hope they're not listening, but I do sometimes see like, signs of them not being how I always think of them being. Yeah. And it's like crazy to think that they are growing older and you're growing older too. It's interesting. It's like I don't know why, but it's a very interesting thing, and it shows you kind of the process of what life is. At the end of the day, we're not infinite beings, we're finite beings. We have an ending, and we are all growing old, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And it's not, I think for a lot of people, growing older puts limits on things. And I think that's why a lot of us are so scared of aging, because we feel like it's going to put a stop to the things that we do. But I think what's important is that we need to see people who haven't had their life limited by age, who still go on to do things at 60, 70, 80 years old, who are fit and healthy human beings. And I think for a lot of us, if aging and being limited by our age is something that we're scared about, we should try and make a change starting from now to ensure that that doesn't happen. Because I feel like, there are quite a few things you can try and do to prevent your age being a limiting factor. But I feel like that's where most of our fears as young people stems from.
Yeah, the age, you don't want to do it just because you think you can't do it, but you can always do it. It doesn't matter what age you are. And I'm just going to come back to the point of the parents that you said. I didn't have that as a question, but I think it makes me so emotional, because I can see my parents. You know how you said, like, you can see your parents and every day there's something new that, like, I don't know, their head is hurting more than it used to. They have this, they have that. And they are like, it's just, I relate to you so much.
I mean, in terms of how you see your parents, because whenever I think of my parents, I think of the 36-year-olds that took me to school every day and back, you know, those people, like, that's who I see when I think of my parents. And then when you see that, when they're in front of you and they're showing, like, we're going through albums or things like that, and you see pictures of when they're like 10, 15, 20 years ago, you can see the difference. And that's when it hits me that, like, this process is happening. So they're not the 36-year-olds that are always in my head, because I'm already 23. So the maths is not mathsing there.
The maths is maths.
But in terms of that, like, you know, you see that happening. And I think it's important, because you need to realise that, you know, they're obviously not always going to be there. We're obviously not always going to be there. And actually, there's so much that we should do to support them in that process.
Yeah, you know, the concept of your parents having a life before you is just so wow to me. For example, when I see, like you said, when you see your albums, you're like, you had, you know, friends, you used to go to school, you used to do this, you used to do that. And it's just, to us, our parents are just people that provide for us, and, you know, people that we just see every day. We're just so used to, like, you know, talking with them every day. But, you know, they had their lives as well. They had their dreams. They had their dreams. They had their dreams.
And I think this is why they sacrifice in some ways. And I feel like this is a common story amongst people of our heritage, is that our parents did sacrifice their dreams so that we could essentially live ours, and maybe some of theirs as well.
Yeah. Honest, I've never actually asked my mom what she wanted to do. She never replies.
Really?
When I asked her what, my mom got married when she was 18, 19, I think, so basically my age.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I ask her, what would you want to study if you went to university, she never answers me. She just airs me. I don't know why I found this, because she got married so young. I feel like she obviously moved to Spain after she got married, so she didn't have that time to study, kind of adapt to the new country. So she was doing so many things at once. And I really feel for her, because she maybe wanted to be, I don't know, a lawyer or a doctor, but I guess we'll never know. So
you can go and ask her.
I can go and ask her. She just never answers. I don't know why. Mama, if you're listening to this, just answer me, please. So yeah, our parents growing up is a really emotional moment. And the more I grow up, I just want my parents to see what I'm doing and achieving, so I can make them proud for the sacrifices they made.
Yeah.
So me going to, for example, me and my sister going to university is a big thing in our family, because I think we're the first generation in our family to go.
So let me ask you, how is that, and how is navigating that? Because I thought that was one of your questions.
It's really hard, you know. I'm not gonna lie, because you don't know, the whole university process, I think, is a really difficult one. And going through all the papers and all the forms and everything, there's things that I don't know what they mean, but neither do my parents. So we have to do is just have to, like, Google it and stuff like that. And the whole process of, I don't know, moving out, I think I'm gonna say I'm lucky, because my sister is the first one, and then I'm right after.
Yeah.
So I've seen my sister doing all this, but it has been really hard for all of us, because none of my parents went to university, and but now us going to university is like a role for my brother, so now they know what to do. And when they go, probably it's going to be easier. Maybe. But honestly, going as the first thing is really hard, because it's just really hard. We came here, and you need funding. There's so many things involved in moving out and being independent. But just the fact that we're going and that we're studying something, I just want to give back to my parents what they did for me during those years.
That's interesting, because even though I'm not the first person in my family to go to university, their university experiences is different to mine, because they went so many years before me. And not only that, my mum obviously went to uni in a different country, so it's like different. But I do share that experience with you of being the first person to try and figure those types of things out. So my accommodation, which uni I'm going to, navigating that whole process, but also applying to a course where no one in my family has ever done that course. All of those types of things, they are quite difficult. But we're lucky in a sense because we're in a generation where everything, all the information that we need, we can find it, luckily. So yeah.
Thank you, Lamisa, for sharing that. I'm just going to ask you the question. I'm just thinking about... so how have the experiences and challenges of previous generations shaped you personally? So, for example, my parents struggling to come here and learn the language, I think they shaped me personally because I started being so independent of like filling out forms and stuff like that when I was young. And those challenges that they went through, I was there as well. And because Spanish was my first language, so I felt like I was a bit, like there. For my mom, for example, I held her right hand when she had to like fill out forms or go to the shops and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. My parents, the first generation to move out of the country they're from.
Wow,
that's how it shaped me. What about you, Lisa?
Wow, that's like a really tangible, direct like shaping of you and your personality and things like that, which is really great. I think personally, it's similar for me, to be honest. I think about the struggles that my parents have been through growing up and the things that they have done for me over the years to get me to where I am. And I 100% say this all the time. I would never be here without their backing. It's just hands down. So alhamdulillah, I'm very, very lucky in the people who I have that are supporting me, because without them, this would not be possible. And so I think shaping me in that sense, it shaped my mindset going forward, that I know that I'm very, very lucky. I know that the opportunities that I have, not everyone has. And so it makes me want to use them all the more, as much as I can, to the best of my ability, to make sure that I've made the best use out of the opportunities that are available to me, I guess. Yeah.
It's very rewarding when you think about it, but it also puts so much pressure on us.
Yes.
Like they struggle in their generation, but now we're trying to give back to them, and we're like, it's also a bit draining, I'm gonna say, but there's always the balance is always the fact that my parents are proud, my parents are happy that I'm doing something.
I see. That's quite interesting, actually.
I remember I went to this uncle's house, and basically my dad and his background is like the same. They like had plenty of like odd jobs and stuff like that. So when I was leaving, he said make sure that he was asking me about university, and he said, okay, study and don't end up like your dad. And I just thought, why would you say that in front of my dad as well? I just felt so like, and my dad was just standing there, and I was like, it's not a nice thing to say, but my dad says the same thing, because you don't want to be, my dad just wants me to have a degree. Just wants me to have a settled life. You can't do if you have any odd jobs, but I don't know. The sentence really hit me at the time. Let's just move on to the next question before we start getting emotional. What are some positive aspects of growing older that often get overlooked or underestimated? We talked about the negative aspects a little bit, I think. What are some positive aspects?
I think it would have been really nice to have someone who has gone through the whole process and has quite a few years on us, to hear their experiences. That would have been really nice. I think generally, as I'm getting slightly older, from, let's say, when I think back to when I was in your stage and now where I am, I feel like you just learn so much, and you learn how to navigate not only your experiences with other people, but your experiences with yourself, your kind of feelings and your emotions, and how you can, like I said, navigate that. And also religiously as well, you kind of learn things about yourself, learn things about your religion, and learn more and more about, purpose in life and things like that. I feel like with time, all of those things come through and you gain a lot more clarity. And I feel like that whole process of life in general is so confusing, and growing up is also very, very confusing. And when you're a new adult, and when you're an adult, I'm sure, and you have your kids and things like that, all of it is like first times. Every single step is a first time for you. And so after having navigated through all of that, and being at a point where you're kind of done with it all, and now you're living your life generally with all of those lessons in hand. I feel like that is a somewhat powerful position to be in.
Growing up, like you said, it's confusing, but it's also inevitable. Like, no matter how much you complain about growing old, it's happening every day. Like, every day is something new. Every day you're growing a day. It's inevitable. And having anxiety about it, I think it's so important that you have to, obviously I'm talking about I'm scared of getting old, and I was talking with you, Lamisa, that I'm scared of getting old, but it's inevitable, and there's no point in stressing about over it, because it's happening. And you rather live in the present than think about how you're gonna look in the future when you're old and stuff like that. It's just,
I think also it's that concept of, I think these days I've been thinking about the concept of growing old beautifully, and the point where you can see this person's like life and the happiness on their face is like really quite important. I think a lot of us, we're scared about the appearances and things like that. But for example, as I see the people in my family who are growing old, not just my parents, but my uncles and my aunts and other people, and you still see the smiles and you hear their laughs and you hear their stories, which are the same that they've been telling for God knows how long. Like, that young, themselves, they're still like young, that they're still them at the end of the day. And I think that's what we need to focus on, is that beautiful journey that we see.
What's growing every day is like their personality, their inside body kind of thing. The outside is obviously growing as well, but the important part is the inside, isn't it? Before we end the show, I just have 2 minutes. Do you want me to ask any other question, or should we talk a bit about stereotypes? We have 2 minutes. Do you think we're gonna have time? For example, the technology averse boomers and tech addicted Gen Z. So is it fair to assume that baby boomers, this is the first generation, so from 1946 and so on, are resistant to technology, while Gen Z is dependent on it?
I think Gen Z is dependent on it. I don't think boomers necessarily are resistant to technology. I feel like loads of people of all age groups, like I said, I feel like loads of people of all age groups have adapted to technology and use it a lot. I feel like it's a generation, all generations kind of
like
thing.
We discussed.
But we're definitely dependent, that's for sure.
Like we discussed in the beginning, baby boomers, I think, are like the 80-year-old people. That's where they're like, they think, when they say get off your phones, you're so addicted, this generation, those typical sentences that you hear, that's what they're talking about. But in this day and age, we all are dependent on technology, and everything we do depends on it, I think. So anyways, we are coming to the end of the show. If you have any thoughts, do let us know at Sister Speak on our Instagram. You can also comment on Facebook Live at Inspire FM Luton. Thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Why not tune in to our live stream at inspirefm.org and follow and subscribe to our social media platforms at Inspire FM Luton.